So why don't we go ahead and get started a couple minutes after the hour. This is Camille here at Mayfield. So thank you all for joining. We've put together a 1-hour piece today really about best leveraging LinkedIn for marketing, sales, content, and strategy overall. Tom, based in Brooklyn, right?
Yep.
Is our expert today, and he's done a bunch of these events before. He's got some great content. We've got kind of a mixed audience today of marketeers, salespeople, content people. He's going to try to cover as much of the content as possible. I'd love questions, so use the chat bar or the chat section here to suggest a question. I will, as politely as possible, interrupt Tom while he's presenting and let your question be asked. So let's make it as conversational as possible. We're recording the content today. We'll be sending out links with all of the content and material that Tom's presenting, and want to make this as useful as possible. So make sure you get your questions answered. So with that, Tom, please introduce yourself and tell us what we're going to see.
Wonderful. Thanks, Camille. And in terms of what you're going to see, let's just do a thumbs up that you see my slides.
There you go.
I think another big problem that we have, another big problem that we have is that
by profession.
Hi there. Who's talking?
Yeah.
Who is that?
It was Eric. He's muted. We're good.
All right. Took care of him.
So Eric and I were actually considering tag teaming this, but I guess he's bailing already. So I'll run it solo, but Tom Eschbacher here from LinkedIn Marketing. And my role here is pretty unique. Over the past couple of years, I've had the opportunity to build out an org that's focused on helping startups like yourselves launch a successful demand gen channel in LinkedIn. And my goal, my belief is that we can be the most essential growth channel for B2B startups. And so today we'll talk about some of the early easy steps you can take to do that. I know several of you are in different parts of your LinkedIn marketing journey, and we'll have something in here for each of you. To kind of jump in, I like to kick off with the takeaways, right? So in case you have to leave early, here are the 3 things I want you to know. And the first is you are leaving meat on the bone if your company page isn't all the way optimized. And this is completely free product that we make for you with lots of optimizations to drive traffic to your website, to bolster your company's brand and reputation. And it's all right there. If each of you were to go and Google or Bing search your company's name right now, you might see some competitive advertisements on top. Then you're going to see your company's website, and then you're going to see your company's LinkedIn profile. And that is a really powerful organic channel to kind of have prospects, potential employees, or even potential investors learn more about you and verify who you are beyond your slick website. So please use your LinkedIn company page to your advantage. The second thing that I want you to leave here knowing today is that we have an unbelievable suite of audience and analytics tools that will make you so much smarter, not just in your marketing efforts, but in your sales efforts. And again, most of these are accessible through the company page. Some others are going to be accessible through our campaign manager, which is our ads platform. All it takes is to apply a single pixel on your website, and then you're going to be off and running, getting smarter about your ICP. Finally, especially in today's times where we are all looking to, acquire new logos, drive revenue positive investments, you can acquire customers on LinkedIn. And if you leave here knowing just one thing, is when you think about LinkedIn from a marketing perspective, that's where I can acquire customers. So with that, now let's kick into a quote from Reid. You guys have all seen this, but Reid Hoffman, LinkedIn's founder, now a partner at Greylock. Starting a company is like jumping off a cliff and assembling the airplane on the way down. He said this many years ago. If you were going to extend the metaphor to 2022 times, there are some gravitational forces at play that make it even harder to get that plane off the cliff. And we know with what the economy is and what the competitive landscape is, what the funding environment is, it's more important than ever to be driving ROI and responsible growth through all of your marketing efforts. And so a lot of today's conversation is going to focus on just how you can do that with LinkedIn. There are three things. So for context, I mentioned we have this org now. Right now, we are working with about 850 startups within the United States, helping them launch their kind of foundational LinkedIn marketing strategy. And our role, we'll work with our partners for 6 to 12 months. And then once they see kind of stable performance, we pass them on to different teams that have more perhaps industry or audience expertise, can take it to the next level. But so suffice to say, we've had a ton of conversations with startups over the past few years. And we typically hear three things. First is, how can we connect with our stakeholders? Second, it's really important for us to understand our prospects, especially when we talk about earlier stage companies who are still figuring out product market fit and who their ICP is. And third is, Tom, we need to acquire customers. And I'm seeing some head nods. So I imagine that some of these resonate. We're going to dive into how we can speak to each of these. I mentioned we have a lot of conversations here, just some of the logos of companies that we've helped grow and succeed. In many cases, actually every single case of the companies on here, these are all related to revenue and ARR goals, right? So these are all customer acquisition, customer growth, revenue growth goals. Why can we do that? It's because LinkedIn has now become this just unbelievable professional social network, right? There are 59 million companies that have a LinkedIn company page. We're now above 850 million members, 443 billion feed updates. That is an incomprehensibly large number. I used to do a math equation where I would clap a couple times and say in the time between my two claps, there were 4,000 updates. It's something like that. It's insane. LinkedIn is no longer a place where people come and passively, post their resumes. It is somewhere where people and companies come to connect, inspire, and grow. And so it makes it an amazing platform for you to share your company's message and value prop. Because when people are coming to connect, inspire, and grow, that learning mindset makes all of the messages they receive resonate even more. So just some bona fides. Top channel to find quality, relevant content. 71% of members who are using LinkedIn use it to inform business decisions. We are consistently rated the most trusted channel. All right, keep going, Tom, get to the good stuff. So what can we do? We talked about connecting with stakeholders. How do you do that? You tell your story. So we'll talk about how you can tell your story on LinkedIn. You need to understand your audience. Well, we'll help you hone your ideal customer profile. And finally, you need to acquire customers. And for that point, we will drive high quality leads. And so again, in about 20 minutes, you're all going to have tangible next steps on how to do each of these three things. First, we will start with connecting your stakeholders, the opportunity here to tell your story. We have a quote, a well-honed story can help you connect with investors, customers, and employees. So that's kind of the trifecta that LinkedIn can connect you with, right? A lot of people think about LinkedIn as a talent platform, and certainly is, right? You're going to find your HR and recruiting and TA teams are going to be able to attract great employees to your companies. It's also where your customers, as I mentioned with that Google example, they're going to come vet you. They might discover you on the platform. And then your current employees, it's a great place to leverage them and their networks to help, kind of empower the virality of your story. The three stories that you should be thinking about telling, especially on LinkedIn, is first your origin story. This is the ethos, right? Were you in a garage? The first desks were surfboards. How did you come up with your idea? Almost more important than that, because those stories all start to sound the same. All those stories have pretty much been told is, let's tell the story about your customer's problem and your solution. Don't rush straight to specs and product features, right? This is where you want to demonstrate that you understand your customer's problem and their pain points, and then you talk about why your solution best fits their need. And then finally, the third story about your vision, and this is useful across multiple stakeholder groups, is how your company can create a better future, right? And so this is going to build excitement across prospective employees, customers, investors, and aligns them with your company's big picture thinking. So the idea here is that LinkedIn can and should be a foundational channel for you to socialize these stories because, again, employees, customers, investors are all active on the platform. First things first, you do that on your company page, right? So much of the content that you share, you already have it on you might have a blog section on your website. Maybe you have a Substack or a company newsletter. That's awesome. Let's repurpose that all and get it posted up on LinkedIn. What we know is that companies who have active and completed LinkedIn pages see a 5 times increase in page views, 7 times increase in average impressions per follower. But more than impressions, it's the clicks, right? So you're getting them over 10x more clicks per follower. So those are huge engagement increases. Again, super easy, free for you to do. You do not need to create content specific for LinkedIn. A lot of the good content marketing you're already doing will meet an eager audience on LinkedIn. So complete your company page. This stuff's all fairly basic. I'll leave it in the deck and we'll pass that along later. A couple of things I do want to call out. We now have the ability to add a custom CTA. And so this is going to be learn more, visit us, contact us, do what matches the main purpose of your LinkedIn page. Are you doing it for a recruiting function where you want people to get in touch and learn more, or is it more of a marketing and sales opportunity? So look into changing that. Super easy. Your page admin can just update it right on the main page.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom, a question. I'm just curious, as you start to populate with all this, is an objective to drive traffic back to my website, or do I want to stay in LinkedIn? And is there best practice on leveraging either of those scenarios, I guess, on the CC?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think that what at least my use case is, when I go to a company page, I scroll down right away and start looking at like the past half dozen posts.
Yep.
And then if I'm still interested and I scroll back up, that call to action, I'm probably wanting to go to the site. And it's just a matter of like, do you as a company want to bring me to your homepage, your careers page, or your request a demo page? So what's most important for you? But the assumption would be, yes, we want to drive them back to your site from your CTA. It's just where and what CTA best matches the content you're sharing.
Got it. Great.
Any other questions on this? Because that was a good call out. A semi-new addition feature here in the past, I would say 9 months, is you can now go in, if you're the page admin, and see the individuals who are following your page. I think it's a worthwhile exercise to maybe check that every month or so and just understand the makeup of like, oh, we got a couple new angel investors. I got a few folks from this company, which actually I understand we have them pretty deep in our sales process right now. We're, responding to an opportunity for them. And so get a pulse on that, because there's good intel in there, either for your FP&A partners or your sales partners. And so just some nice anecdotal faces to names that you can get. A couple other points on company page, specifically around improvements. So what sort of content should you be putting on your page? We now have a content suggestions tool on your company page where you can go in and build a specific audience. So here's where you would want to be building what you believe your ICP is, or your different buying personas. Oh, they are IT decision makers at companies between 500 and 5,000 employees in these either countries or cities, what have you. And we will pop up what is trending with them right now. And so you can see, oh, they're coming on LinkedIn because they're looking for information on how to increase productivity when their companies are working from home. And let me start to seed my content around those topics. How does it all come together? We use Snowflake as an example. I think we can all look to them as a model of what a fantastic exit looks like. 3 types of stories and an interesting content mix here. So they have thought leadership, where this is pretty small, but this is a third-party article. It's a third-party website interviewing, highlighting their CEO at the time or their founders at the time's vision. Second, in the middle, they're talking about their product market fit. So this is where they are promoting what's essentially a case study and how a customer of theirs transformed their their digital transformation with Snowflake. And then finally, company culture. This is speaking to employees. We have tabs on your LinkedIn company page that can highlight all the cool things that get people excited about wanting to join you in your mission. So this is the tell your story. I'm now going to be, I know there are a bunch of like sales and demand gen folks. So we're going to pivot the conversation there. Any questions on content marketing or company pages?
Tom, I have a quick question. So one of the things that I'm saying is people typically respond better to content when it's coming from a person. I think there's just a natural relatability to hearing a message from a person that they can also see who they're connected to, et cetera. So what are kind of your thoughts on, is there a way to make the company page seem a little bit more personal versus having the message come from the company itself, if that makes sense?
Yeah, such a good call out. And I think there's like a lot of psychology behind this too, that people are more apt to trust individuals than companies. And so two things we've done, or one thing we've done and one thing we're doing. So you can share directly from your company page, say your CEO or your head of sales posts. And so those will show up as almost a repost directly on your company page. That's what we've done. What we are doing is we are giving you soon the ability to promote those posts. So that is something we have not historically done, but knowing how important this creator and influencer what's the word I'm looking for? Just that sort of recommendation is, that's going to be coming out. I'll follow up with Shelby. I want to say imminently. So another way for you to get those sort of referrals and humanize the brand in places.
Yeah, that's great. Good call out.
Thanks, Tom.
Cool. So the second challenge that we hear frequently is understanding prospects. And again, this is going to be something we mostly hear with like pre-seed or seed, where, we've gotten some good feedback from the founding team's first party network on the product, but really we're trying to commercialize it now, and we're not sure exactly where we should start. And so the opportunity here is that we can help you hone your ideal customer profile later on for companies who are a little bit more mature and you feel good about your ICP. Then we can help you with like message market fit and product market fit and just kind of validate both of those things. Tom Tungus here. Part of a successful ICP is clarity, of course, but the other part that's often overlooked is that they're discoverable, right? So you don't want to know that like, our ICP is left-handed accountants of, mid-sized tech companies who like Billy Joel. Like, where are you going to find that group of people? So what we try to do is give you the clarity, but then also the discoverability. So let's now talk about a few of the ways that we can do that. We have the world's largest professional data set, right? So in terms of Busy-Graphics, we are going to provide multiple facets to you that are member entered, right? So they're going to be accurate. You can learn about the exact company's names, the industry they're in, their company size. When we get to the person level, the job title, the job function, the job seniority, the years of experience. We're now rolling out to skills, groups, all these sorts of things that will help you understand, where you are getting the most traction. How do we do this? One, you're going to see some of this just directly through the company page. Two, when you open a LinkedIn Campaign Manager account. So the Campaign Manager is what we call our ads platform. There's an option to generate an insight pixel, which you would place on your site, which then it marries the LinkedIn members who are visiting your site from all channels, organic, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever they're coming from. And it creates an aggregate and kind of holistic view of, well, this is, I should say composite's a better word, a composite of like, these are the types of folks who are coming to your site. Something new we have here that's not yet in the deck is what we call a company engagement report. So when you begin advertising, you can take a look at the different companies who are engaging with your company across LinkedIn organic, LinkedIn paid, and your website. And this is one of our biggest enhancements in helping sales and marketing align more closely. So you have a sales team that gives you an ABM list and say, hey, these are, 500 companies that we're calling on right now trying to generate activity. You can then marry your company engagement report with that list and say, whoa, here's actually 100 that are engaging with our LinkedIn content really frequently. And this is the content they're engaging with. And now you go back to the sales team and the reps know what is piquing their interest and how to customize their messaging, because aligning audience and content is super, super important. And it's something that we enable in multiple ways, right? You can align your organic content to what your audiences are engaging with, as I just mentioned a few slides ago. When we get into more paid, understanding like, all right, it's a lot of people that are at small businesses, maybe you're starting bottoms up and that's your go-to-market there. Small businesses. So let's create more small business content. And ultimately, the better that you do that, you will improve conversion.
You've got a couple questions here.
Yeah, I'm just opening that up actually. So
thought maybe
cool.
we could jump on those as well.
So Christine asks, who at LinkedIn helps with product marketing fit? Christine, do you want to come off mute and maybe give me another sentence or two?
A couple slides back, you mentioned that was available. I do have an account rep with my LinkedIn advertising that's helped with some of that, but I never help or engage with anybody that helped with product marketing fit. So I was curious as to what that actually meant.
Yeah, so this is going to be just using some of our insights tools to kind of create a map for you of where you are getting deeper penetration compared to your competitors, right? So you can say to us, Christine, like, hey, Tom, here are 6 competitors that I'm really keen on. And what we can then do is look at your engagement versus those 6 competitors against key audiences to show where you are resonating more. And, you might think, for instance, okay, audience A is where we're going to be investing more of our go-to-market, time and thought. But where we pull this report, and you might realize that that's a really, really crowded market. And in fact, you are only like 2% share of voice or share of mind there, whereas groups B and C, you're actually already in a more advantageous position. So it's really us feeding you some insights with competitive intel that you're going to be able to go back and add those to the other.
So I don't have that available on my platform. I have to have is this done through advertising
the competitor analysis is something on our side that we would.
How do I get a rep to help me with that?
Yeah, so we can follow up after this, and you can tell
Great.
me who your rep is, and I'll make sure you're in the right place.
Thank you.
Cool.
And the other question was from Srinivas way at the beginning of the, really just getting to the target audience question.
Yeah. So let's do that now and talk about, so we have a sense of who our audience is, and now how can we engage and ultimately acquire leads. Look, we know this more than ever is important from seed on, right? So we took a look at, for instance, So you have some stats here. LinkedIn is the #1 social media platform for lead generation. They forced me to have this in the deck, right? It's like, Tom, we paid, to get these sort of slides. So make sure you say it. But I think what's more interesting for this group is we did a report about 8 months ago, I'll say, when we looked at over 500 startups who were advertising on LinkedIn, and 40% of seed companies, their primary advertising objective was lead generation. And that surprised us a little bit that it was that high. I think a couple of years ago, seed might have still been thought of as a safe haven to get that MVP out and try to find your product market fit. But investor expectations are tougher now, and we need to show that, maybe that's a triple year, right? And so you have to go get those leads somewhere. So 40% of seed companies are already using LinkedIn for lead generation, and 3 reasons really for this, right? It's that intent-driven mindset that members have. I mentioned that before. Second, best-in-class targeting, and we're going to spend some time there, and we can even deep dive on some best practices if you guys want. And then finally, it's now a suite of products that we've really, over the past, I'll call it 2 years, optimized for demand gen. And we'll spend the next 2 or 3 slides kind of breaking these down. So it's the right mindset. 4 times more likely to use LinkedIn to improve their career and learn. Again, when people are in a learning, leaned in mindset, they're more likely to resonate with the content that you have in front of them. We talked about informing business decisions, and then it's relevant, safe, quality content. Targeting, we've had a bunch of improvements here. So think about everything that's on your personal LinkedIn profile. Those are all targetable facets within our ad platform. So not your name. So that was an oversell, but not your name, but your company name, we can target based on that. Your job title, your job function, your years of experience, what groups you're in, where you're located. Age and gender, I don't love. I mean, in B2B, we don't really do that too much. And those are both inferred based off of, age is inferred based off of college graduation, and gender is inferred based off of name. And we do that for legal reasons based off all the hiring activity that takes place on our platform. In yellow, these are going to be, this is what we would call second party data, right? Data that's coming from you. So you can give us a list of accounts, right? Hey, Tom, my sales team has these 500 accounts. We want to run ABM to them to move them through the sales funnel. Contact targeting, you can do the same thing for individuals. This becomes more valuable the larger of a CRM you have. Conversely, if you are a PLG company and you are doing a bottoms up motion, you would do contact targeting with all of the free users, and we could do a conversion campaign there to convert some of them into paid. The other kind of PLG conversion tactic is when you start to get into sales assist, taking the company names of your free users, loading them into the platform, and then layering in the right seniority to find the decision makers at those companies to let them know, hey, your teams are already using the free version. You can get more efficiency by launching whatever the next tier is. And then you kind of squeeze it from the middle down. So that's a popular way that PLG firms are using account targeting. And then retargeting. So retargeting, we now have, of course, off of your website, but we've really improved retargeting from ads within the platform and the platform itself. So if you wanted to do retargeting through the funnel, what does that look like? It looks like, think back to that first section about telling your story and telling the customer's problem and your solution. You run a video with hey, customer, this is what we know is your problem. And we can then retarget all the users who completed a certain percentage of that video, knowing that, hey, they must have resonated with that problem so much. So now we're going to retarget them with a single image ad that talks more about our value prop. anyone who engages with that, you can retarget with a lead gen form, asking them to, so we have an ebook or a white paper, asking them to download, and then all of a sudden you get their contact information. Those folks you retarget into a different ad product, pushing them toward demo. And all along the way, as soon as you get those people's information, it's not just on LinkedIn anymore. You're also nurturing them through your CRM. And so your HubSpot or Marketo instance, whatever you're using. So that's like that was like a 90 seconds on how to do full funnel retargeting on LinkedIn. Happy to dive into that later. Final piece, and then I'll pause because I see some questions popping up, is a lookalike. So you can take any of those lists and say, find me more people like this. Hey, Tom, here are companies that are our customers. Find more companies like this. Here are people who have bought our product. Find me more people like this. And I think the difference between doing this on LinkedIn and say like a Facebook is we are building those lookalikes based off of their bizographic DNA, as opposed to like what movies they said they liked when they signed up for Facebook in 2007. So I will stop here. Let me read the questions. Okay, cool. PLG. Yeah. And again, like happy to chat more. I have like 2 more slides here. How accurate are lookalikes? Suraj, amazing question. I think I would need you to tell me that. So what I've found is when our team is advising customers on lookalikes, you also want to put in exclusions on top of the lookalikes, right? So if there are certain audiences that you do not want to speak to, let's make sure to exclude them, just so you're not getting like, say you want sales, but you don't want biz dev. So let's just exclude biz dev function. So we still want to put some guardrails on there. How do we know what third-party sites LinkedIn is using to promote lookalike audiences? I'm going to ask you for another explanation here because I want to make sure I'm getting this right.
Christine, you want to dive in on that?
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute. We are doing some advertising, so I'm familiar with some of the concepts that you're talking about. And I'm always hesitant to push that third party, the lookalike audiences, because I don't know where that's being distributed to.
Cool. So I want to make sure we're not conflating 2 different things. We have lookalike audiences and we have LinkedIn audience network. So lookalike audiences are about people. The audience network is about where your ads are being distributed.
Okay.
Are you talking, which one do you want to talk about?
Talk about both. Educate me on both, because those are 2 selections. I have no idea where they're going. I'm assuming the people are within the LinkedIn network and the other one's on third-party networks, but I never saw an explanation for that. So it's unclear to me.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, cool. So let's take a step back here and talk about just like the LinkedIn ecosystem. So you obviously have LinkedIn on platform, which is your LinkedIn app, LinkedIn when you go onto your website. What we've done in the past couple of years is build out an audience network, which is same as all the other major channels, right? Where you can extend your LinkedIn audience. And by extend your audience, I mean, you can find them when they're not on LinkedIn. So you're finding the same people, it's just in different places. So now let's decouple the 2. So a lookalike audience is you have your seed audience, and we take that and we create an audience that looks like that audience based off of job function, seniority, title, company size, etc. You can then run that audience on LinkedIn or on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn. I will give you guys my 30-second POV on LAN, which is what we call LinkedIn Audience Network. It's great if you have upper funnel or straight to site goals, right? So are you trying to increase brand awareness, or are you trying to drive people directly to your website to engage with something? Then LAN is really effective because you're reaching the right people. We've invested a ton in brand safety, so you have controls on what type of sites that you're reaching them on. Where it can fall short is if you are interested in that mid-funnel lead acquisition, because right now, my next slide, this is a great segue, is we do not yet have the ability to do our lead gen forms on LinkedIn Audience Network. Why are lead gen forms important? That was like really a perfect segue, Christine. So thank you. This has been, I would say, if you were to look at LinkedIn Marketing Solutions revenue over over the past couple of years, like this is an inflection point. When this product was released, this was an inflection point in our trajectory, because we knew that our B2B customers, which is B2B is 98% of our business, they're trying to acquire customers of their own. And you know what sucks? Clicking an ad, opening a new website, and then having to thumb your way through and like fill out information to get something. Like I lost interest explaining that. And I didn't even start trying to type in Eschbacher on my phone, right? It's such a huge bounce rate. What we know is that only 3 to 5% max conversion rate when you send people to your own website. Lead gen forms will 3 to 4x that, right? So our benchmark completion rate for lead gen forms is about 12%. And why is that? Because we make it super easy. 2 taps, you see an ad and it says, sign up or learn more. You tap that. The next screen that comes up, which is the screen on the far right here, is a pre-filled submission form, right? And so as the advertiser, you can choose what fields you want to input. It's important for me to get their name, their work email address, and their company. And then boom, I just confirm all that. I just look, yep, Tom Eschbacher, LinkedIn sales manager, submit, and it's going to go directly into your CRM, right? We have integrations with all the major CRMs. And so it makes it super, super smooth. So the benefits there are the volume and the accuracy of the leads. 89% of startups who are advertising with us use lead gen forms.
I see on the screen here, you've got, Tom, an event, a webinar series. I'm curious, any learnings around inviting to an upcoming webinar series, et cetera, as you've got here that you've learned as best practices?
So I think my main comment here is webinars were super hot in like the summer and fall, winter of 2020 when everyone went COVID. And then there was this big backlash to webinars and Zoom fatigue and all those things. What we then saw happen, and what is still, I would say, a best practice, is on-demand content. You can gate on-demand content, and that plays. Like, you will get leads for on-demand webinars. People just want to watch it on their own time. Like, unless you can guarantee a great audience and some benefit for being live, like on demand. And so that just means less work for you guys, because you just have to do maybe 2 or 3 a year, and then you can have those continue to live on. Just make sure they're evergreen enough.
Yeah, great. Suraj had a question on the amount of filters to use in targeting. Suraj, you want to ask your question live?
Sure. So ideally, when I'm doing this lead gen ad, I add a bunch of filters to avoid getting the leads that are not relevant to us. Over time, I've been kind of experimenting using less filters and more filters. So just curious to know what is the ideal number of filters one should be using when targeting on LinkedIn?
I would change the question to, what should my audience size be? Like, what's an ideal audience size? Because, if I said, like, you could add 20 filters and still have an audience of 20 million, right? If they're not the right filters. So I think it's more about the trade-offs of having a really large audience or having a large audience versus having a super niche audience. One of the things we frequently hear, especially startups who are starting their first campaign, is that they want that audience to be super, super tight. Like, I want just my buyers. And that means we do a list and we get to like call it 12,000 people in the United States. And first of all, you're not going to get the exit you want if you think your audience is only 12,000 people. So we should probably think bigger. Second of all, you're missing out on your buying committee. Buying committees are super, super important, right? We know that there's about at least 7 people involved in every B2B decision, and that's not even counting all of the influencers in that decision. So we like to start with audience sizes, like assuming you're truly not selling to the 10 large pharma companies because you have a specific trial software or something. Assuming you do have a reasonable audience, like let's get that first audience north of 30,000 just to see what happens. Because the risk is if you have too small of an audience, one, you're not going to reach them. 2, you're going to have to pay a lot to reach them. And 3, when you do reach them, they're going to fatigue so quickly on the creative.
But what I've seen is quite the opposite actually. If I start really broad in the beginning, I end up getting no leads. But if I'm really specific about who I want my ads to show, then I end up getting a lot of leads. So I kind of did that experiment, and I mean what you're saying is I slightly disagree to that, because and the sweet spot is like I get what you're saying, like it should be above 30,000 the audience size, but not all the times it works. I mean, what I'm saying, it doesn't work all the time. So
yeah, without knowing your specific use case. Well, first of all, I'm glad that you found something that works. Without knowing your specific use case, I think I probably should clarify, like, I want you to skew toward closer. I never have an audience of like 1 million people, right? Like that's not going to do it. And your clicks are going to go to irrelevant folks. Use the exclusion filters. Those are really important, especially the smarter you get. And like a lot of that feedback is going to come from sales. Like, hey, we disqualified these leads. Why'd you disqualify them? Oh, because X, Y, Z. And then you take that and you add those as negative filters.
Chip,
Sure.
you had some input here on using events. Do you want to share your?
Sure. Yeah. No, we use the event feature for our events, and it's great. And we have the sales team, invite their connections, but it's the challenge is that there's no filter on title. So you look at all your first level connections, and it's just a huge mass of a lot of people in a lot of different, and so I mean, personally,
It was great feedback. Yeah.
I end up doing like a separate window and doing, finding my first level connections based on title, and then, okay, yeah, I'll invite that person, and then I type it in and invite so it'll take me an hour to go through and get,
Clean it up.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys are experimenting with events. I think if we were to ask the events product team here how far along they think they are, they might not even say 15% to where they want to be.
Interesting.
So, certainly like I can pass along this verbatim, and I imagine if they don't have it already, I'm sure they'll be happy to consider this in their roadmap, because we know that this could be a really important kind of gathering spot and tool for companies to have. And that sounds like it's a little bit high friction.
Yeah. Sounds like great feedback though. I mean, the right sort of the first level connection and actually filter names properly.
Yeah.
Actually, another question. If we use 6 Sense for a lot of our ad buys, and we are doing some with LinkedIn, but the connection is not very close, so we have to basically export a high intent segment to LinkedIn to then run the ads that way, and then we also don't get any reporting back into 6 Sense. I'm wondering if you have any plans or on a tighter integration with 6 Sense.
I'm sure we do. Not something I can speak to intelligently right now, but I made a note, and we'll follow up with you on that.
Great. Thanks, Tom. This is a great session, by the way. This is awesome.
Okay, cool.
Really
I'm glad to hear it. So we're actually like right at the end. So I can kill the screen in a second, and we can just jam on any other questions. So the three things we talked about, right? Tell your story, hone your ideal customer profile, and drive high quality leads. A couple of you have referenced over the course of the conversation that you have LinkedIn reps. For those of you who do not, one of the offers that we extend as part of partnering with Mayfield and Camille being friends of the family here is a free strategy consultation to you. So if you would like to sign up for that, please email lm4s@linkedin.com and we will get you going on that. And during that conversation, one, if you have experience with LinkedIn marketing, and that's what we're going to want to hear about first, right? And so we can do an audit of previous campaigns and let you know, maybe where they went a little bit off path to how we would approach it. Or two, we can create, kind of a foundational strategy for you should you choose to, want to add LinkedIn marketing to your mix. So lm4s@linkedin.com. Shelby will send out a link with resources that has this deck. It has our startups microsite. So we have a microsite that's solely devoted to the startups content that we produced, startups case studies. We did a report, I referenced it before, called Today in Startups. So that launched last December. We're in the process of doing our 2022 one right now, but you'll see some interesting stats about how other startups by stage are adopting different products and features. And then the other thing I put in there, boy, it's escaping me right now, but I know you're going to find a ton of value in it. I'll kill the screen share right now and see what questions we have. And maybe just also suggest one thing that we see a lot of interest in is sales and marketing alignment. So if anyone has questions or thoughts on that, that is an area that is near and dear to my heart. You get these leads in with marketing, what becomes of them, and how deeply do we measure, and how are we partnering with sales? So I'll stop.
Hi, Tom. Brianna here. Curious for any on that sales and marketing alignment topic, like any tips for just follow up on leads from LinkedIn with the sales team, kind of as we think about it compared to maybe other channels that we're using.
Yeah, the first follow up is going to be universal, but time to touch is super important, right? So a lot of this is going to depend on the size of your sales team or the volume of leads you're passing over, but at the very least, you want to be doing same day, right? At the very minimum, you want same day. At LinkedIn, we run a session where we have our head of inbound talk, and we've gotten our time to touch down to like 18 minutes. So a lead comes in, you're hearing from a human within 18 minutes. We know that spikes response rates, conversion rates into meetings, all of those sorts of things. Specific to LinkedIn, the biggest mistake that sales teams make is not customizing their outreach to the channel that the lead came through. So in that outreach, and a lot of this is going to be how you all feed it to your sales team, right? Like, do they know that it's coming from LinkedIn? Do you have a field in that email or Slack message that they get that passes like what content they downloaded or engaged with? But you want to be leading with, hi, so-and-so, I saw you engaged with our 10 things marketers should know about LinkedIn content on LinkedIn. I'm following up because XYZ, right? And so like that will elevate it immediately from all of the other cold inbound that decision makers get. The final thing I'll add here is channel mix. And so don't only try email as a follow-up, but most of your sales teams, I imagine, already have Sales Navigator licenses. So following up on Sales Nav by sending a LinkedIn message is a really nice compliment.
Great, thank you.
18 minutes, guys. Love that. All right. Any other questions? So we've got a bunch of content. Tom put together a whole kit of stuff. He's got his contact information, the LMS4S, LM4S.
LinkedIn marketing for
Sorry.
startups, right? That's what it is. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, folks, what I'm going to do is I'll send out a note to this group as well as anyone who signed up and couldn't make it today. It'll have the deck, it'll have the contact info, next steps if you have questions. It'll also have a short write-up on today's call as well as the recording. So it'll either be later today or first thing tomorrow morning. And then if you guys have any problems contacting Tom or you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Shelby, or Tom.
Camille, you have a split personality.
I know.
I know, right? I logged in on the wrong Zoom.
You wanted to be me today, I think. It's something, I don't know. You got to get your own. You get your own Zoom license there, Shelby. Well, great to see everybody. I hope this was useful. Let me or Shelby know if there's other content or ideas you'd like us to host something. Tom, thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate your time and all your resources and insight here. And everybody have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Great session.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Camille.